The table was polished smooth, catching the chandelier's weak glow. The smell of roast chicken clung heavy in the air. Glasses tapped as my mom poured wine into each one. The silverware clinked against plates in a rhythm too steady. I chewed slow, waiting for something to break. Emma sat across from me, shoulders straight, eyes locked on her phone. The screen lit her face in pale blue. She smirked, then turned the device face down with a soft thud. The sound echoed louder than it should have. My fork hovered in midair. My dad cleared his throat. The scrape of his knife against the plate stopped. He lifted his glass, eyes sharp under the dim light. "Your sister will be moving in here after the wedding." His voice was calm, almost casual, but heavy as stone. The word wedding cracked the quiet. My knife slipped, hitting porcelain with a sharp ring. My chest tightened, breath caught in my throat. Emma didn't move. My mom sipped wine, the rim clinking against her teeth. Dad chewed slow, like nothing had changed. "What wedding?" My voice came sharper than I meant. It cut through the room like glass shattering. The air thickened. Emma's eyes flicked up for just a second. Her lips curled into that same smirk, then dropped. No answer came, only the faint hum of the chandelier above. I set my fork down, the metal heavy against the cloth. My mom's hands fidgeted, smoothing the napkin across her lap. She stared down, avoiding my eyes. "You didn't tell them?" I asked, words tight. My chair creaked as I leaned forward. Emma tilted her head, shrugged like it was nothing. "Not my fault you're out of the loop," she said. The words stung sharp. I looked at my dad. His jaw flexed as he chewed. He didn't blink. His fork scraped the plate, slow and deliberate. The sound grated in my ears, dragging across every nerve. He didn't speak, but the silence was louder than anything. My mom refilled her glass, the liquid glugging into crystal. Red wine dripped down the side and stained her fingers. She wiped them quick with a napkin, eyes still lowered. The smell of alcohol mixed with garlic and smoke. It turned my stomach sour. "Who is he?" I asked. My throat felt raw, my voice cracking. My eyes stayed fixed on Emma. She smirked again, sharper this time, her finger tapping against the phone. She didn't answer. That silence burned hotter than words. My chest thudded. Heat crawled up my neck. My dad set his fork down with a slow metallic clang. He leaned back, eyes locked on me, face blank but cold. The weight of his stare pressed down like a warning. I clenched my fists under the table, nails biting into my palms. The candle flickered beside me, wax dripping steady down the holder. The flame wavered, throwing shadows across Emma's smirk. My mom took another sip, her glass trembling faintly. I wanted to push. I wanted to shout. The words clawed at my throat, desperate to get out. But my dad's glare was sharp, heavy. One more word, and I knew I'd regret it. My tongue stuck to the roof of my mouth. The food cooled on my plate. The potatoes had turned stiff, the chicken dry. The smell now felt suffocating, pressing down on me. My appetite was gone. I forced myself to swallow, but each bite turned to ash. The clatter of Emma's phone broke the silence again. She flipped it face down with that same smug gesture. Her eyes glowed with something I couldn't read. She wanted me to see her smile. She wanted me to know I was on the outside. I stared at the chandelier above, its faint hum buzzing in my ears. The crystals trembled from the draft, light scattering across the walls. My head spun, my chest heavy. The whole room felt off, staged, unnatural. I dropped my napkin on the plate. The sound was soft, but it carried. All eyes shifted to me for a second, then turned away just as quick. No one spoke. My pulse hammered, echoing louder than the hum of the light. The only thing I knew for certain, I wasn't part of this. They all had a secret, one big enough to hide from me. And now I'd heard the word that changed everything. Wedding. My phone buzzed on a nightstand, screen lighting the dark room. I stared at it before sliding my thumb across. My mom's name glowed, white against the black display. Her voice came thin and shaky through the speaker. "Sweetheart, please don't make this harder." Her words cracked with static. I sat up, blanket twisted around my legs, chest tight. The lamp cast a weak yellow circle on the wall. My hand clenched the phone so hard it squeaked. Harder, I said. My voice broke sharp in the quiet. She's getting married in 2 weeks, and no one told me? My foot tapped against the wooden floor, fast and uneven. I felt heat rise into my face. On the other end, silence stretched. Then her sigh filled my ear, heavy and tired. You wouldn't know anyone there anyway. Glass clinked faintly in the background. The sound stabbed through me like a knife. My jaw ached as I gritted my teeth. That's not the point, I whispered. My reflection stared back from the black window pane. The night outside pressed close, heavy and empty. My throat burned with words I couldn't swallow. I hung up before she could answer. The screen went dark with a soft click. The room smelled faintly of dust and coffee left too long in the cup. My chest rose and fell fast, every breath sharp. I opened my laptop, the keys cold under my fingers. The glow filled my face, blue and harsh. I typed Emma's name into every bar I could think of. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Page after page scrolled past. Photos of her cat sprawled across the couch. A shot of a latte with a heart in foam. A sunset blurred in orange and red across the lake. But nothing about a fiancé, nothing about a wedding. My skin prickled cold. I leaned closer to the screen, eyes straining. My breath fogged faint against the glass of my water nearby. My fingers tapped restless against the desk. It was too neat, too clean, like she scrubbed her life of anything real. The clock ticked on the wall, loud in the silence. The second hand dragged in small jerks. I scrolled deeper, hunting for something hidden. Every photo looked staged, every caption flat. It felt less like her and more like a mask. I slammed the laptop shut, the sound echoing sharp. The room shook faintly as the vibration ran through the desk. My phone buzzed again, screen flashing with a message. One word glowed from Emma. Stop. I dropped the phone on the bed, chest thundering. The blanket bunched under my fists, fabric rough against my palms. She knew I was digging. She knew I was close. The thought made my stomach twist. The apartment felt smaller, the walls pressing in. The hum of the fridge filled the silence. Too steady, too loud. My glass of water tipped, splashing cold across the table. Drops slid across the wood and onto my jeans. I stood fast, chair scraping against the floor. My pulse hammered, drowning out the ticking clock. Emma was hiding something big, and now she wanted me to stop looking. But stopping wasn't an option anymore. I opened my laptop before sunrise, fingers stiff on the keys. The screen's blue glare filled the small room. Cold coffee sat beside the trackpad, bitter and stale. The apartment hummed with the router's low buzz. I started typing faster than I could think. I dug through Emma's followers, eyes flicking over icons. A handle popped out, Caleb.H with a hawk as the avatar. The mouse clicked loud in the quiet room. My breath fogged the rim of the mug. I hovered and then tapped. His profile loaded slow, like it sensed me. One photo showed a perfect headshot, light soft on a crisp suit. The tie pin gleamed, a tiny hawk clutching a bar. The monitor whined faintly as I leaned closer. The hawk felt like it was looking back. No post beyond that single frame. No tags and no comments older than 2 weeks. I dragged the photo to my desktop, the file thumping into a new folder. The lamp warmed my knuckles on the desk. I opened a reverse image search with a tight jaw. The face returned nothing. The suit returned nothing. I cropped the pen and searched the small hawk. My mouse skittered on the pad, plastic scraping fabric. Results blinked in a column that made my throat go dry. A society page opened with gala photos and glossy captions. Men in tuxes smiled under chandelier light. A banner behind them read, Halbert Foundation Gala, in gold. The photo frames clicked as I slid through them. The hawk logo perched in every corner. There he was mid-frame, half turned toward a tray of champagne. The caption breathed names in neat print. Caleb Hart, guest, private capital. I pressed a knuckle to my lips, heat gathering behind my eyes. The laptop's fan spun higher like a warning. I checked the date under the caption. Last week, downtown, private invite only. I scrolled the archive, pulse kicking hard under my ribs. No older shots with his face anywhere. The silence of his past screamed in my ears. I plugged in cheap earbuds and hunted for video. A clip started with clinking glasses and soft piano. A host spoke names that blurred into velvet noise. I caught one clear line through the tinny speakers. Thanks to Halbert and Viridian. I searched LinkedIn for Caleb Hart with shaking hands. A fresh profile blinked up with 3 connections. The headline said investor and nothing else. The keyboard clicked steady under my wrists. The newness smelled like paint that hadn't dried. I checked his followers again, tracing the edges. Half the accounts were newborns with blank grids. Their bios felt printed, not lived. My pen tapped the desk in tight little beats. The pattern sharpened and cut through doubt. I printed the headshot and the gala banner. Warm paper slid into my palm, edges crisp as blades. I circled the hawk pen with a black marker. The ink bled slightly into the cheap fibers. The birds I turned to it at a shadow. I slid the printouts into a thin folder. The cardboard rasped against my fingers. I tucked a notepad in the pocket and capped the pen. The chair legs squealed on the floor as I stood. I needed answers before nightfall. At the door, I grabbed my jacket and keys. Metal chimed in my palm, bright and cold. I felt the folder dig into my ribs through fabric. The hallway smelled faintly of bleach and old carpet. I walked faster than I meant to. By afternoon, I sat at my parents' table again. The clock clicked on the wall, patient and smug. Condensation slid down my water glass, leaving a wet ring. Emma stepped in with her phone, glowing like an eye. I kept the folder zipped inside my jacket. What's his last name? I asked, voice low and plain. The fork in my hand knocked the plate's edge. Emma paused like she had tripped on air. Hart, she said, barely moving her mouth. The name landed heavy between the dishes. Where did you meet him? I asked, words measured. The ceiling fan clicked overhead, wobbling on a bent blade. Emma smoothed a napkin that didn't need smoothing. A fundraiser downtown, she said. The lice scraped like sand in my teeth. I saw the gala page. I said, still calm. My thumb traced the wet rim of the glass. My dad's fork stopped mid-scratch, metal held in air. Emma's eyes flicked to my jacket zipper. The room shrank as the clock clicked louder. I looked at her ring and let the light burn. The stone threw a cold flare across the table. Her wrist showed a faint red line under the band. I pressed my tongue to the roof of my mouth. The flare faded, but the mark stayed. I didn't show the folder. Not yet, not here. The paper edges cut the inside lining like teeth. My chair creaked as I leaned back slow. The smell of lemon cleaner hid something sour. I let the silence carry the weight for me. When I stood, my napkin dropped with a soft slap. The table vibrated, the water ring widening. Emma stared at the spot like it could swallow us. I slid the keys into my pocket and felt the metal bite. The hawk on the printout watched from the dark. I set the folder on the table hard. The cardboard slapped the wood and bounced. The chandelier rattled with a faint glass chirp. My fingers stayed on the edge. I didn't sit. Emma watched my hand, not my face. Her phone rested near the salt shaker. The screen was black and waiting. The dining room smelled of lemon, cleaner again. My jaw worked while I chose words. What is the deal? I said. My voice came flat and low. The knife beside my plate gleamed under the light. My dad's eyes thinned to a slit. He did not blink. There is no deal, my dad said. He kept his hand on his fork. The tines pressed a groove in the cloth. A fly ticked against the window pane behind him. The lie hung heavy between plates. Stop, my mom said, fingers on her glass. Her ring scraped the stem and squealed. Wine sloshed near the rim and stilled. The room tasted like copper in my mouth. The glass trembled once more. Emma exhaled, then pushed her chair back. The leg screeched over tile and snapped nerves. She touched the napkin and folded a corner. Fine, she said. Her voice had no color. They missed 3 payments, she said. She stared at the pepper grinder. Not me. A letter came with red bars on top. Paper crinkled under her thumb. The word default clicked like a trigger. My dad shifted, the chair groaned under him. We handled it, he said. His hand flattened the letter's memory into the table. A clock ticked in the hall, stubborn and loud. He would not look up. Who handled it? I asked. The folder edge dug into my palm. The chandelier threw sharp light across silver. My breath fogged the side of my water glass. I waited for a name. Halberd, Emma said. She touched the napkin again. Through a man named Pierce. The name felt like ice in the throat. A car passed outside and washed the wall with light. Pierce called. My mom said, eyes on the placemat. He knew everything. The placemats we've left marks on her fingers. She set her glass down too softly. The bass tapped once and stopped. He offered a fix. My dad said. He pushed the pepper grinder aside. The grinder left a black dust arc. He said we could relax. He rolled the word like a stone. What did he trade for it? I said. I pressed the folder flat. The cardboard groaned as it spread. Forks glinted like teeth along the runner. Emma's shoulders tightened under fabric. Terms. Emma said, eyes on the runner. They cover arrears and fees. Her voice went thinner as she spoke. Then they set a date. She touched the ring with 2 fingers. What date? I said. My throat felt scraped and dry. Condensation slid down my glass and pooled. The pool ran toward a breadcrumb. The crumb vanished in the wet. 2 weeks from Sunday, she said. She did not look at me. The word Sunday cracked the air like chalk. A draft brushed the drapes and lifted dust. The dust spun in a thin ribbon. They made me sign, Emma said. She held the napkin tighter. The cotton bunch then smoothed. A private agreement, she said. The words clicked like a locked drawer. What agreement? I asked. I pulled the chair back an inch. The leg tapped tile in a steady beat. The folder's corner split my thumbnail. I waited while my breath slowed. A move-in clause, she said. Here for 3 months after. Her ring touched the plate and pinged. Weekly dinners and appearances. The word appearances made my skin crawl. My dad rubbed his temple with 2 fingers. His watch face flashed a dull white. He set his elbow near the knife. The knife rolled and stopped against porcelain. He still said nothing else. They added a silence rule. My mom said she picked at a loose thread on the runner. The thread stretched like a line drawn tight. No posts, no comments. Her voice frayed on the last word. Who pays the price if you refuse? I asked. I slid the folder closer to Emma. The paper inside scraped like dry leaves. The salt shaker caught the light and blinked. I could feel my pulse in my wrist. Dad, Emma said, still not blinking. They take the house if I back out. She tapped the table once with her ring. The tap sounded like a small hammer. The deal sounded bigger. There's also a job, my dad said. He adjusted the pepper grinder back. The wood cap squeaked under his fingers. Consulting, he said. The word sat crooked in his mouth. For who? I said. I pointed at the hawk pin on the printout. The bird stared from the folder like an eye. My fingers smudged a line of ink. My skin felt hot and wrong. Halberd's partner, Emma said. Viridian, she added softly. The name cut like a thin wire. She lifted the water pitcher and set it down. The pitcher thumped and settled with a glug. They sent a courier, my mom said. She glanced at the door like it remembered. A metal case with a number lock. The case had scuffed corners and a cold smell. She shivered after the memory. What was inside? I asked. I felt the chair back bite into my spine. The air tasted like dust and lemon. My knuckles whitened on the folder. The room seemed to lean. Papers, Emma said. A schedule, a driver card, a ring receipt. She slid her ring on the plate. Porcelain chimed under stone. The stone flashed and then went dead. And if you run? I said. The water line reached my elbow now. A droplet hung from the glass lip. It fell and broke on the cloth. The break sounded like a tiny snap. They freeze the fix, my dad said. He squared the knife with the fork. The metal made a small cross on the runner. They called the note back. He stared at the cross like it mattered. So it is ransom, I said. I pushed the folder open an inch. The hawk glared from glossy paper. The chandelier hissed in the quiet. My tongue felt thick in my mouth. Emma reached and closed the folder gently. Her palm left a print in dust on the cover. "It is leverage," she said. Her eyes were dry and steady. "They prefer nicer words." "Does Caleb know I know?" I asked. I pulled the napkin edge and tore a thread. The thread curled on my nail like a worm. My dad's breath rasped once and stopped. He did not answer me. "He knows you exist," Emma said. She lifted her phone and set it down. The phone buzzed once on the wood. A new notification pulsed and faded. She did not flip the screen. "Then hear mine," I said. I slid the gala photo into the light. The ink sheen caught the bulb and flared. The hawk pin burned bright. For a second, I tapped the caption with my nail. "Do not do this here," my mom said. She pushed her chair back an inch. The chair's foot thumped a soft protest. Her hand found the rim of her glass. The ring clicked twice against it. Emma put her hand over the photo. Her fingers covered Caleb's smile. "You wanted the truth," she said. "You have it." The heat from her hand warmed the paper. The paper bowed and stayed bowed. I looked at the ring on the plate. The stone threw a cold line across the knife. The line trembled with the hum of the chandelier. It sliced the air thin and mean. Emma did not move to take it back. "Last term," she said, voice flat. "No scenes of the ceremony." She slid the ring closer to the edge. It ticked once against porcelain. "No interference," she said. The words were a lock clicking shut. I picked up my water and drank. The glass was warm and sweaty in my hand. The taste of chlorine crawled across my tongue. I set it down near the wet ring. The wet ring widened and soaked the cloth. "I heard you," I said. I pushed the folder back into my jacket. Paper rasped against the lining and scratched. My chair leg scraped when I stood. The scrape felt like a warning on tile. Emma gathered the napkin and held it tight. The cloth bunched into a white knot. Her breathing stayed even and silent. Her phone buzzed again and stopped. She stared at the knot like it could hold. I reached for my keys and felt the teeth. Metal bit the skin near my thumb. The bite grounded me in a hard way. I looked at the door and then back. Their faces did not change. The ring still rested on the plate, cold and bright. The knife's edge caught the light and winked. The chandelier hummed above like a trapped insect. The air smelled sharp with lemon and fear. The deal sat between us like a loaded briefcase. The wipers squeaked across the windshield, leaving faint streaks. Rain smeared the city lights into long broken lines. My fingers clenched the wheel until they hurt. The engine hummed low under the storm. I followed the red glow of Emma's taillights. She turned off the main road, tires splashing through puddles. My breath fogged the glass near my cheek. I lowered the window an inch for air. Damp wind slapped against my face. Her car slowed near a high black gate. The gate groaned as it opened, metal screeching like a warning. A keypad glowed pale green against the brick post. Her hand moved fast over numbers. The gate closed with a slam that shook the street. I parked down the block, lights off. The rain dripped steady from a leaning street lamp. My shoes stuck against the mat when I shifted. The folder on the seat pressed against my thigh. I leaned forward, watching through the blur of water. A figure stepped out into the glow. Caleb, the same sharp jaw, the same perfect smile. He carried an umbrella, black fabric shining with beads of water. His shoes struck the pavement with quick confidence. My chest tightened as another figure joined him. A woman slipped under the umbrella, laughing too loud. Her lipstick shone bright under the lamp. She gripped his arm and leaned close. Their shadows stretched across the wet driveway. He didn't pull away. He pulled her closer. I slid lower in the seat, breath shallow. The steering wheel felt slick in my hand. My heart slammed like fists on a door. They stopped at the curb, faces lit by a red brake light. The sound of her laugh cut through the rain. At the corner, the woman kissed him hard. Her hands framed his face like she owned him. Caleb didn't resist. He pressed back, eyes closed. The umbrella tilted, rain spattering down his sleeve. My stomach turned to stone. The light changed. They pulled apart, still smiling. Caleb opened the passenger door with ease. She slid inside, dress rustling against leather seats. The slam of the door echoed sharp across the block. His car merged smooth into the rain. I gripped the keys until the teeth dug deep. The folder slipped from the seat onto the floor. The papers inside fanned out in the shadows. My pulse thundered in my ears, drowning out the storm. The truth was no longer in doubt. Emma's fiancé wasn't faithful. He wasn't even cautious. He was already someone else's, and he was still her cage. I slammed the folder on Emma's kitchen table. The cardboard thudded against the wood, rattling a spoon in the sink. Steam from the kettle curled into the air. My knuckles stung from the impact. She flinched before she spoke. "What is this?" she asked. Her hands hovered over a chipped mug. Her nails tapped once against the ceramic. The sound was sharp in the quiet. Her face drained pale. "I saw him," I said. My voice cracked as I leaned closer. Rain still clung to my jacket sleeves. Water dripped onto the floor, pooling near the chair. My eyes locked on hers. Emma's breath hitched as she gripped the mug. "You don't understand," she said. Her fingers trembled against the handle. The tea bag tag swung like a pendulum. The kettle clicked as it cooled. "I don't understand that he's cheating on you." My words shot out fast. My chair leg scraped the tile when I pushed forward. The fridge hummed low behind me. My pulse thudded hard in my neck. She shook her head and backed up. Her shoulder hit the counter. With a dull thump, the mug slipped and rattled against the sink. Her chest rose quick under her sweater. "It's not about that," she whispered. "Then what is it?" I asked. My fist hit the table once hard. The spoon in the sink jumped with a metallic ring. My breath fogged the edge of the glass window. The air felt colder than before. Emma's lips parted, but no sound came. She pressed both hands flat on the counter. Her nails scraped faint white lines into the surface. The kettle hissed faintly, still leaking steam. Finally, she looked at me. "It's not about love," she said. Her voice cracked like glass. "It's about protection." She pressed her palms harder into the counter. The veins in her hands stood out sharp. I stepped closer, heart hammering. Protection from what? My tone was raw, almost a plea. The light above flickered once. A cabinet door creaked in the draft. Her eyes glistened but didn't blink. "Dad owes them," she said, voice shaking. She pressed her fist to her sides. "He owes too much." The fridge motor kicked louder. A spoon clattered inside a drawer. Her words hit like a hammer. "What do they want with you?" I asked. My voice was hoarse now. I gripped the chair back, with digging into my palm. A drip from my sleeve hit the tile. The sound landed like a clock tick. "I am the deal," she said. The words fell flat, but heavy. Her hands curled into fists on the counter. The mug wobbled in the sink. My breath caught hard in my throat. "Emma," I whispered, stepping closer. "You're trapped." The lamp over the table hummed. Its chain swayed a little in the draft. Her eyes flicked up, raw and burning. She didn't answer. Silence swallowed the kitchen. The smell of steeping tea turned bitter. My chest heaved with every shallow breath. That silence said more than words ever could. The warehouse doors groaned as they swung open. Warm light spilled onto the cracked pavement. My shoes scraped against gravel as I stepped closer. The smell of cigars hit first, thick and sweet. A string of bulbs flickered above the entrance. Inside, chairs lined both sides of a makeshift aisle. White fabric hung limp from the rafters. The floor smelled of sawdust mixed with spilled liquor. A row of wine bottles gleamed under the lights. The air was too warm for the season. Guards stood near every corner, black suits stretched tight. Their earpieces glinted faint under the bulbs. One tapped his wrist as he scanned the crowd. His watch face flashed once in the dim. My stomach coiled tight. Emma appeared at the far end of the aisle. Her white dress shimmered under the weak lights. She clutched the bouquet so hard the stems bent. A violin scratched out a slow tune. Her steps echoed hollow across the wood floor. She moved like each foot weighed double. Her veil caught on the edge of a chair. She tugged it free with a sharp jerk. The crowd murmured low, glasses clinking as they raised them. My throat burned as I swallowed. Caleb waited at the front, smile carved sharp. His ring glinted, the hawk pin flashing on his lapel. His hands clasped behind his back, steady and cold. A man whispered in his ear, clipboard tucked to his chest. Caleb nodded once, still smiling. The officiant's voice cracked through the speakers. Words blurred into noise, formal and hollow. My seat wobbled as I leaned forward. The chair legs scraped the concrete loud. A woman in front glanced back, eyes sharp. I didn't care. "Does anyone object?" the officiant asked. His hand gripped the microphone like a claw. The violin screeched and then cut off. Silence pressed heavy from wall to wall. My pulse thundered in my ears. I stood fast, chair toppling behind me. "He's cheating on her!" I shouted. My voice ripped through the silence. The bouquet slipped from Emma's hand. Petals scattered across the aisle in a soft rain. Gasps cracked the stillness, followed by angry shouts. A glass shattered against the floor, wine spreading dark. Guards rushed forward, shoes thudding heavy on the wood. One grabbed my arm, grip crushing. Caleb's smile fell flat. "You should have stayed out," he said. His voice was quiet, but venom laced every word. The hawk pin caught the light again, burning in my eyes. His stare cut sharp and cold. My chest heaved, but I didn't look away. The officiant's mic screeched with feedback. Chairs scraped as guests pushed back. The air smelled of sweat now, mixed with smoke. My wrists burned under the guard's grip. Emma's veil trembled as her shoulders shook. For a second, she met my eyes. Her lips parted, but no sound came. Tears blurred the edge of her lashes. A guard tugged her arm, steering her forward. The petals on the floor stuck to her heels. My shout had split the ceremony wide open. There was no pulling it back. The deal was bleeding in front of everyone. And Caleb's calm mask had cracked. The danger was just beginning. The guard's grip crushed my arm as he dragged me. His fingers dug into muscle like iron claws. My shoes scraped against the wood, leaving dark streaks. The microphone shrieked with feedback overhead. Shouts bounced off the high rafters. Emma broke from the aisle in a sudden sprint. Her bouquet crumpled underfoot with a sharp crunch. The veil ripped as it caught on a chair. Her dress trailed across the floor, silk dragging like chains. The violin bow screeched once, then snapped. "Stop her," someone shouted near the back. A glass crashed, spraying shards across the floor. The guard shifted, torn between me and her. The smell of cigar smoke thickened around us. My lungs pulled sharp, ragged air. Emma's bare feet slapped against concrete. She stumbled, then caught herself on a metal post. Her ring clinked as it hit the steel. I shoved against the guard's arm with everything I had. The folder of my jacket jabbed into my ribs. "Emma, run!" I shouted. My voice tore my throat raw. She looked back once, eyes wide and wet. The chandelier above flickered, bulbs buzzing like hornets. She bolted toward the side door. The guard slammed me against the wall hard. My shoulder cracked against brick with a dull thud. Dust rained down from the ceiling beam. My head spun, ears ringing. I bit down and shoved back again. Chaos swallowed the room. Chairs tipped in every direction. Plates shattered. Food smeared across the floor. Someone screamed as another punch landed nearby. The smell of spilled wine and sweat mixed thick in the air. Emma yanked the door open with both hands. Hinges groaned and metal scraped the frame. Cold night air surged into the heat. Her dress tore at the hem on the rough edge. She vanished into the dark. I tore free from the guard's grip. His nails scratched lines across my sleeve. I lunged after her, breath burning in my chest. The crowd pressed and shoved, bodies slamming into me. My hand caught the edge of the doorway. Outside, headlights cut through the dark. Engines roared as black cars peeled away. Tires shrieked, smoke curling from rubber. The warehouse glow pulsed red against the clouds. Emma clutched my arm, nails biting deep. "Drive," she gasped, her voice breaking. "Now." Her hair clung damp against her cheeks. Her dress dragged heavy in her other hand. My keys rattled as I fumbled them out. We sprinted to my car, gravel spitting underfoot, Doors slammed and the engine coughed to life. Smoke poured behind us as I floored the gas. The steering wheel shook in my grip. My heartbeat pounded louder than the engine. Behind us, a roar split the air. Fire bloomed through the roof of the warehouse. The glow turned the sky orange. Windows burst outward with sharp pops. Glass rained across the pavement in a deadly storm. Emma pressed against the seat, chest heaving. Her hands twisted the torn fabric of her dress. Flames reflected in her eyes like mirrors. Her voice cracked as she whispered. It was never supposed to go that far. The fire swallowed the warehouse whole. Cars sped into the distance, lights fading fast. The smell of smoke poured through the vents. I gripped the wheel tighter, eyes fixed forward. We weren't safe, not even close. The highway blurred beneath the tires, lines flashing white in the dark. The wheel trembled under my grip. My chest rose hard, every breath sharp. The rear-view mirror showed nothing but smoke. Emma clutched her torn dress against her chest. Her voice cracked. "Keep driving." Her nails dug into the fabric. Wind roared through the open window, carrying smoke and ash. A plastic bag whipped across the road, stuck, and vanished. My foot pressed deeper on the gas. "Tell me everything," I said. My voice was raw, almost broken. The dashboard glowed faint green against my knuckles. The engine growled under the strain. Emma stared out the window, her reflection pale in the glass. She closed her eyes tight. "Dad borrowed too much," she said. Her words shook, each one edged in fear. They said there was only one way to erase it. She twisted her dress until threads snapped. "What way?" I asked. My hand smacked the steering wheel once. The sound cracked in the small cabin. The air smelled of burned rubber from the chase. Emma's shoulders tensed, but she didn't turn. "Me," she whispered. Her voice barely carried over the engine. "They wanted me as a payment." Her head fell forward against the glass. Rain streaked the window and blurred the passing signs. Silence filled the car, broken by the tire's hum. My throat tightened with heat I couldn't swallow. The glove box rattled with every bump. Emma pressed her palm hard against her knee. Her ring finger was bare and shaking. "When you stood up, I thought they'd kill you," she said. Her eyes snapped toward me. They glistened like glass catching firelight. But then it fell apart. The fire, the panic, all of it. Her voice broke with a sob. "I couldn't let it go on," I said. My grip carved lines in the wheel. The vents blew warm air heavy with smoke. My heart pounded, so loud it drowned the wipers. My reflection stared back from the windshield. She wiped her face with a torn sleeve. "You gave me an out," she said. Her chest hitched with every word. Her knuckles stayed white on the fabric. She didn't look relieved. She looked terrified. The glow of fire still lingered in the mirror. A faint orange shimmer clung to the horizon. My hands burned as if the flames had reached me. The smell of gasoline carried faint through the vents. Emma whispered again. "They'll come for us," she said. Her voice was steady this time. Her eyes fixed on the black road ahead. The sound of her words filled the cabin like thunder. "This isn't over." The dashboard lights flickered once. My eyes flicked to the fuel gauge, needle hovering low. The road stretched endless, dark and empty. The engine hummed like a warning under my feet. I pressed harder on the gas. The night swallowed us whole, but the chase wasn't finished. Emma's words echoed in the roar of the tires. My pulse matched the rhythm, fast and relentless. In the rear view, the horizon still burned red.